Hey, so tonight is just for me, but you guys can all listen in too. I'm actually going to be preaching to myself, I think. So, my name is Michelle Williams-Alden, and I am a licensed professional counselor, and I specialize in helping parents to implement innovative, intentional parenting tools with especially challenging kids. I'm a mom and an adoptive mom, and I was adopted as a child as well. So, it's not about having it all together. This is a journey, and I really love supporting parents on this parenthood journey. So, did you know that for the most part, no matter how wrong or bad something is that happened or that somebody did, or how wrong we think somebody is, that 99 times out of 100, that person does not actually think that they really did anything wrong or that they are wrong. How people see themselves and how they justify themselves is kind of what we're talking about tonight. And one of the reasons why we're going to talk about not being critical and especially being judgmental on people, but doing things that cause people's defenses to rise up, because then people really strive to justify themselves, and that becomes the whole goal, to want to be understood and to have people understand their reasoning behind it. And also, when we're critical of our kids or other people, it tends to breed resentment. It doesn't really make the change happen that we want to happen. Sometimes people are forced into change, kind of like maybe at a job, but the resentment is still there. So I just want to say one thing about the kids that I work with especially tend to really have a hard time with anything that they perceive to be criticism, or I guess now they would probably say, not to be judgy or judging them. And I think a lot of it has to do with the way that they perceive themselves. It's not that they always think that they're right, although it may come across that way, that they're never wrong. A lot of it has to do with quite the opposite, of already feeling like at some level that they're worthless, or they're not worthy, or that they're always screwing up, or that they're always going to screw up. So that defense rises in them, and then they have a really hard time not becoming defensive. So that is just a piece of being critical that we have to really watch out for, and how we say things. I've found with my son that I can just tell him to do something and he can see that as critical. So we're going to talk about that it's okay to give clear, concise directions, but just know that you're kind of hitting against that defensiveness that makes a person want to justify themselves. That's why when you might tell your kid to do something, they will instead tell you either why they haven't done it, or that they were going to do it, or that they already did it. It's that immediate defense that rises up. And once those defenses kick in, again, people are just striving to justify themselves. So also, when our kids do things, it is really easy to find the fault in what they do. That they don't do the chore completely, or they don't do what we asked the way that we thought it should be done. And so we have to really just watch that in ourselves. And this is the part where I think all of us benefit from this. It's easy to point out the wrong, but it's not as easy to point out what we see that we like, or that we're thankful for. So I wanted to read this passage from a book that my daughter gave me to read, and it's called Father Forgets, and it was written quite a while ago, so the language might be kind of interesting, but it really struck my heart about being critical with our kids, and especially our kids that come from hard places and already have never really believed that they were a good child or a good person. So it says, "Listen, son, I'm saying this as you lie asleep, one little paw crumpled under your cheek, the blonde curls sticky wet on your damp forehead. I have stolen into your room alone just a few minutes ago. As I sat reading my paper in the library, a stifling wave of remorse swept over me, and guiltily I came by your bedside. There are things I was thinking, son. I had been cross to you. I scolded you as you were dressing for school because you gave your face merely a dab with a towel. I took you to task for not cleaning your shoes. I called out angrily when you threw some of your things on the floor. At breakfast I found fault too. You spilled things, you gulped down your food, you put your elbows on the table, you spread your butter too thick on your bread. And as you started off to play, and I made for my train, you turned and waved a hand and called, "Goodbye, Daddy," and I frowned and said in reply, "Hold your shoulders back." Then it began all over again in the late afternoon. As I came up the road, I spied you, down on your knees, playing marbles. There were holes in your stockings. I humiliated you before your friends by marching you ahead of me to the house. Stockings were expensive, and if you had to buy them, you would be more careful. Imagine that, son, from a father. Do you remember later when I was reading in the library how you came in timidly with a sort of hurt look in your eyes? When I glanced up over my paper, impatient at the interruption, you hesitated at the door. "What it is you want?" I snapped. You said nothing, but ran across in one plunge and threw your arms around my neck and kissed me, and your small arms tightened with affection that God had sent blooming in your heart, which even neglect could not wither. And then you were gone, pattering up the stairs. Well, son, it was shortly afterwards that my paper slipped from my hands and a terrible sickening fear came over me. What has habit been doing to me? The habit of finding fault, of reprimanding. This was my reward to you for just being a boy? It was not that I did not love you. It was that I expected too much of youth. I was measuring you by the yardstick of my own years. And there was so much good that was good and fine and true in your character. The little heart of you was as big as the dawn itself over the wide hills. And this was shown by your spontaneous impulse to rush in and kiss me good night. Nothing else matters tonight, son. I have come to your bedside in darkness, and I have knelt there ashamed. It is a feeble atonement. I know you would not understand these things if I told them to you during your waking hours. But tomorrow I will be a real daddy. I will chum with you and suffer when you suffer and laugh when you laugh, and I will bite my tongue when impatient words come about, and I will keep saying as if it were a ritual, he is nothing but a boy, a little boy. I am afraid I have visualized you as a man, and yet I see you now, son, crumpled and weary in your cot. I see that you are still a little boy. Only yesterday it seems, you were in your mother's arms, your head on her shoulder, and I have asked too much. Too much. That is from How to Win Friends, Influence People. There's a passage in there, in case anybody's wondering where I got that from. So, instead of condemning people, it's really about understanding and not, I like that part about not measuring our kids by the same yardstick that we measure our adult selves, because I think that is really a lot of what happens. That, and then our own fear about what if I don't correct this, or what if this behavior continues, as if they're going to stay that size forever. So, it's just thinking about what it is that we really want to say and how it is that we motivate people. With the horses, we talk about 3 zones. With the horses, we talk about the relationship zone and the stop zone and the motivational zone. And it's interesting, I watch a lot of people go to these different zones in the horse when they meet him, and we talk about this when we're trying to get the horse to do something. So I was thinking about this a lot this week, as far as how do we motivate our kids, and how do we get them to do the things that we want them to do, or to stop doing the things that we don't want them to do. And then I read that, and that really talked to me personally about just being critical and always seeing things in the not enough kind of light. So that made me think a lot about encouragement and how we all actually need it. I know that we don't get a lot of kudos sometimes, and our kids don't also. And it's not about giving everybody a trophy. It's just about realizing that people are more willing to do things and more willing to work with us when we are encouraging. And with that, I was thinking a lot about gratitude and appreciation. So, you know, with my son, he's older, and so it's a lot easier, it seems like, to be critical than when he was younger. But I don't think that being critical and making him defensive and making him feel like he can't do it well or isn't ever doing enough, or that he's supposed to try to somehow keep up with us when he's really not going to be able to do that, because he's not even doing a task that he wants to do. It's a task we want him to do. That maybe being grateful for the things that he is doing and appreciating what he has done will be like legal tender to his soul. Maybe it will fill his cup. And so that is my encouragement tonight, is to just really think about how we can, you know, give clear and concise direction but not be critical, and just really working on the gratitude and the encouragement piece of it. And with that, I think that we have to be creative in figuring out what our kids really want, or what they get from doing these things that we are maybe asking them to do. What is in it for them? Because we all have our reasons why we do work or chores or all these things. But where's the buy-in? Where do we reach them and help them reach their goals, and not always just striving to reach what we think our goals are for them? So, and also in that, I was thinking about, in our Family First program, we make goals for the kids, and we keep them really simple. And one thing I encourage parents to do a lot is to write those goals in the positive. So instead of stop doing this and don't do that and no doing this, we phrase it in a positive way. So it's encouraging in its own sense. So trusting your parents is a lot different than stop trying to take control of the house. So just looking at those kind of interactions and how we see it and what we're actually looking at, and just really looking inside ourselves, and even just being honest with ourselves if we're really valuing our kids, especially our kids that come from hard places or that are especially challenging for us to maybe value and show appreciation and love to. How can we do that better as a family? How can we do that better as individuals and as parents? So that's where my mind has been this week, and that's the encouragement that I need to hear. So that's what you guys get to hear tonight. Thanks for watching. I love your comments and your questions, so please keep those coming. And feel free to like the Healthy Foundations page and send this video to other parents that you know. Good night.